session كتير حلوة interactive وكتير topic essential لكل engineers especially the mechanical ones. Okay, I'm gonna introduce first the company, then our dear Rayan and Mr. Patrice. So أول شركة اسمها IGIENAIR. IGIENAIR Middle East is a specialized engineering and validation company providing contamination control, clean room qualifications, and environmental compliance services. Across the Middle East, the company supports pharmaceutical, biotechnology, healthcare, and life science facility in meeting international regulatory requirements. Its expertise includes clean air, includes clean room and HVAC qualifications, HEPA filters testing, airflow visualization, and temperature and humidity mapping, delivered in accordance with ISO 14644, EU GMP, HWO, GMP USP, and ASHRAE standards. IGIENAIR Middle East adopts a risk-based engineering-driven approach focused on performance and data integrity and long-term sustainable and qualified environments. Mr. Rayan. Mr. Rayan ZAKHOUR is the Middle East manager at IGIENAIR with a background in HVAC engineering, clean rooms qualification, and GMP compliance. He supports pharmaceutical and health facility across the region, focusing on risk-based validation, regulatory alignment, and operational excellence. So, Mr. Patrice from France, bienvenue. Merci. Mechanical engineer, has 30 years of experience in HVAC engineering, with the least 10 years dedicated in clean room environments supporting international pharmaceutical and healthcare projects. The floor is yours.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. He said everything, nothing to add. So, at first, I would say it is for me a very big honor to be here today, a very good pleasure to be here for this mechanical week. First of all, I would like to sincerely thank the organizer, for their invitation and for this technical event, which is for me very high level, what I try to understand till now. Also, I would like to thank the public, because you are very brave. First, you stayed till the end, and second, you will have to understand my English. This conference is very special for me because it is my first time in Beirut, first time in Lebanon, and I am very, very pleased for many different reasons. First, because it takes the opportunity to meet old friends and to share the expertise of the Lebanese engineering community, which is very important for me. And finally, to try to discover your beautiful country, your culture, and your famous gastronomy. We are here to talk about a subject which is not visible for the eye, but which is vital for our health. I speak about clean rooms and controlled environment. As engineers, we all know that in hospital and pharmaceutical plant, air is not only air. Air is a critical safety barrier. And our mission is to ensure that patients are protected from healthcare-associated infection, and also medication remains sterile and safe for the population. It is why when we are designing, building, and also very important, maintaining facilities such as hospital and a pharmaceutical factory, for instance, laboratory, we cannot do it like we are doing office building, hotels, or whatsoever. It cannot be the same. It is very important. And it is why we are going to speak, what we are going to speak now, to show the main difference and to show all the criteria we have to take care when we are designing, constructing, and of course, maintaining this different kind of building with high level quality, which is requested. So yes, it has been presented our company, but I will just say a few words. I don't want to spend too much about our company. We are a family company, which is old of approximately 25 years now. We are more than 600 people, with many agencies, of course, in France, but also all over Europe, Germany, Belgium, Luxembourg, Swiss, Netherlands, Spain. And also, like it has been explained, we have an office for Middle East in Dubai and activity, of course, here in Lebanon. We are developing different activities in the field of HVAC, but also dedicated to air quality. And of course, when we speak about air quality, it can be for tertiary application, but it is, let's say, with regulation in healthcare and the pharmaceutical factories. So it is why we are very focused on this kind of project. So we are doing air qualification, monitoring, and deep cleaning till disinfection when it is required. And also we have, let's say, capacity to make some work in order to optimize the energy in the HVAC system. Because, okay, in office, and like I said, and in hotels, we are two aspects are the main important, besides the price. I will say it is comfort and energy consumption, energy optimization. And when we speak about healthcare, we have to add also safety for contamination. So this is our company. We also invest a part of our turnover, approximately 3% in research and development. And we've been developing some system of monitoring. Monitoring the air with the pollutants which are in the air, different kind of pollutants, and also monitoring the dust which are inside the duct, which is also an important factor. We are not only acting as a, let's say, qualification company, but we are also part of the certification group in France. We have this time 2 persons which are dealing with this. And if I have time, we will try to explain you what's coming new for the certification for France. So we wanted that you are to keep you awake and ask you some few questions. This is a study that we've been found, which is let's say found for United States, but it is approximately the same level of data for Europe. And let's say for country where let's say air quality is important in the hospital with qualification. So in this study, it is shown that we have approximately 5% of the patients which are entering inside an hospital, we are living with a contamination, infection, okay? 5%. And in this 5%, you have to think now, what, in your point of view, it is a percentage of persons which catch infection due to the airborne transmission. So the answer, yes, is between 10 and 20% is around 15%. Okay? So 15% of the 5%, it's not 15% of the total people who are entering hospital, but 15% of the contamination is coming from the air. Okay? So, what do we find in the air? Well, we find some contamination, and we can define some types of contamination. There is the chemical, the physical, the microbial contamination, of course. Okay? Where do we find them? We find in airborne on surface. But what are the main source of contamination? Where this contamination is coming from? Well, it's coming from many sources which are inside, of course, the premises. So the environment, the process, the product itself, which is produced, the raw material, the equipment condition, but the main contamination is coming from the people, from the operator. Okay? This is very, very important to understand that. Okay? When we speak about the particles, physical particles, 90% of the particles are coming from the people. Okay? Even if we are, let's say, cloth in a clean room cloth, okay, like you can see on the photo, somebody which is stand up will generate 100,000 particles a minute. Okay? And if this person starts to walk, it's going to go to 500,000. Slow movement till 1 million particles a minute. Okay? And I'm not speaking about when you have coughing or if you are a little bit ill, which is 100 million particles a minute. Okay? So this is very important to understand this point. Okay, so let's say about this contamination impact of the airborne. Like I said, in a hospital, air quality is not, let's say, just a comfort, it's a real survival. And for the patient, of course, it is the problematic for the immunodeficient patient, okay? Which can have direct infection, nosocomial infection. Great, okay. And also, for the human safety, we have to take care about the people who are working in this place, in these clean rooms, operating theater, all that, because there is an exposure also to the contamination. If you see the photo just on the right, I don't know if you have an idea of the, let's say, of the volume of air we are breathing every day, but it is 12 cubic meters of air every day we are breathing. Okay? 12 meters cube of air. So this is very important, and you can imagine that this air, if it is little bit polluted, can create some problematic. And in fact, like we know, the human being, let's say, is very well made, well done, because let's say natural, we have a filter which is the nose, okay? But it was right, let's say, 100 years before. But with all the pollution we've been created as human, all the small pollution, chemical pollution, I'm saying mainly, on ultrafine particles, our nose is not any longer enough. Okay, is not any longer filtering the air which is entering the body. And when this air is getting below 1 micro, it's going to the pulms, to the alveolar, and after to the sand, and create whatever it can create, because it is inside the blood, and after, when it is inside the blood, can create any problematic, such as cancer. Okay? So this is very important. This is direct, let's say, exposition of the air. And of course, we'll have the same things when we are speaking about production in pharmacy, because obviously, when we are speaking about, let's say, production in a pharmaceutical factory, depending, let's say, the problematic of pollution in particles you will have, you can damage easily some microchips or different kind of medication. Okay? So this slide is just to have a small focus on the concept of total cost of risk. In fact, due to contamination, you have many different risks. Okay, the diagram is much more focused for, let's say, for pharmaceutical factories, which show all the different risks you can have due to contamination, or all the consequences you will have if you have a contamination. Okay, so of course there is some which are easy, like regulatory. If we speak about non-compliance with the GMP requirement, obviously you will have problematic, and you will stop some batch of production, which will have cost effect. You will lose some market share, which will create some financial problem. Of course, when we speak about design, construction, and testing, okay, we are here to test the facility at the end of, let's say, for instance, of a new project. But when there is big issue in construction or in design, you can start again to make some improvement of your design or construction, and of course it will be some consequence of cost. Of course, operation and maintenance is very important, like I mentioned before, because the maintenance, it is what will remain your facility in a good state. Okay? It is why it's very important first to have a good maintenance, but to control, to have some control, yearly control, to check all your parameters that you wish to have in your facility is fully respected with the time. Okay? And on the, yes, you have data about cost, which is much more for healthcare. Second question.
Why in Europe is less costly than
No, it's the same. Yeah. So second question. In, let's say, open area, okay? This is a particle quantity. Of course, you will tell me it will depend where, but it is, we are saying that it is approximately 100 million particles of size 0.5 micron in cubic meter in outside air, okay? Of course, if you have a polluted air, of course, it can be much more. What is, in your point of view, the level of particle which is required to be in a laminar flow ceiling operating theater, for instance, for orthopedic theater? So class 4 ISO 5. I don't know if you have an idea. So from 100,000, you take the air outside 100 million particles by metr cube. You have to go down to, okay, less than 3,520. Okay? This is the goal. This is to show the importance of the design. It is to show the importance of the manufacturing, of the different equipment you will install in your facilities. It is to show that the maintenance you need to require, because you need to respect less than 3,520. Okay? So this is a real challenge. And it is why, unfortunately, it is costly. Okay? We are not speaking about, like I said, hotels or office building, because office building, it is 25 million. The particles inside the air. So this is in terms of clean room classification. So on the left-hand side, you have the particle, physical particle, depending your classification of your room. Okay. Okay. So this is, yes, on the left-hand side, it is the particles. And on the right-hand side, it is the contamination, microbiological contamination. Okay, so this is all, let's say, put in regulation. So in the ISO 14644, what we are checking when we make our qualification, we are going to check the airborne particle, the airborne bioburden, and the surface contamination. Of course, there is other requirement, especially in industry. And it will be, this is a different class, depending the different norms we can find out. And mainly, we are focused, let's say, between ISO 5 and ISO 8. Okay? So class D to class A. This is the French norm. Okay? The French norm, which is, we have a norm which is coming from the ISO 14644, dedicated to the hospital. Okay? This is the NFS 9351, which is going to be changed this year. And this is the different characteristic we have to define, and it is what we are checking when we are doing our test. Okay? So depending your class, so class 4, it is for orthopedic operating room, orthopedic 1. We are in class ISO 5. First, I don't know if you know all these parameters, but there is what we call the cinetic delimitation des particules. It is in fact the time, if you contaminate a little bit your room, the time it will come back to the ISO initial. Okay? In fact, it's going to measure the performance of your HVAC. Okay? You make some pollution, you wait, you put your clock, and you wait to arrive to, let's say, the ISO 5. Okay? So on CP5 means for 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, you have to come back to your ISO 5 if you contaminate your rooms, thanks to your airflow filtration, with filtration. M1, it is the microbiological cleanliness, okay, the number of colonies we are going to count. Of course, after, which is very important, it is the pressure, different pressure between your room and the room beside, which is 15 Pascal. After, you have the temperature. For information, by, I would say, mistake, or I don't know why, they canceled the humidity level in 2013. They canceled it, and this year it will come back again. Okay? Check again the humidity, because in fact, they were thinking with a good temperature, you don't need to check out the humidity, and in fact, during few years now, we have a lot of problem with humidity inside the room, because when you see that, all the designers took out the heating coil of your air handling unit to make dehumidification. So not any longer control of dehumidification, so big humidity and big problematic. Okay? Of course, we saw it already, the type of direction of the airflow, if we are in tubular or non-tubular flow, and the speed at the outlet of your filter, which is checked. This is the point that we are checking. Okay? HEPA filter. Okay? Everybody know, of course, HEPA filter. When we are speaking about a HEPA filter, what do you think? Which size is going to stop? And I will leave Ryan answer.
Hi. Thank you for coming. رح كفي بالعربي شوي نغير جو إذا ما عندكم مانع. Okay. Okay. So بلشنا شوي الحديث عن الكونتامينيشن والمشاكل والبارتيكلز وشو معقول يطلع عنا مشاكل نحن بالاندور انفايرمنت. ورجعنا طلعنا من هونيك تحكينا عن الكلين روم ستاندردز اللي هن مينلي الايزو 14644 اللي هو ذا موست ادوبتد ستاندرد بالعالم كله، اللي بيحكي عمل كلاسيفيكيشن للغرف الكلين رومز او سال بلانش او الغرف النظيفه. يلي بيستعملوا بعده مجالات، فارما، مستشفيات، لابوراتوار، بايو سيفتي كابينتس وكل هالامور. لحد هلا حكينا بس كلاسيفيكيشن. من هلا ورايح رح نحكي شوي اكثر اتش فاك حتى نجرب نفهم السيستمات اللي معقول نركبهم كيف بيشتغلوا وليش بيشتغلوا بهالطريقه وكيف معقول نستفيد منهم. اول سؤال بالنسبه للبارتيكلز اكيد الاير فلتريشن، لانه عم نحكي نحن اير كواليتي. رح نحكي عن الهيبا فلترز، كلنا بنسمع شو هن الهيبا فلترز وكلنا بنعرف انه بيشيلوا تقريبا كل البارتيكلز. رح فوت شوي بالتفاصيل اكثر. برايكم لما نقول 99.97% من كل البارتيكلز في بارتيكل بتقطع اسهل من غيرها بهذا الفلتر. اي وحده برايكم؟ مين بيقول اول اوبشن؟ بلكي بيعلي ايده. مين بيقول ثاني اوبشن؟ مين بيقول ثالث اوبشن؟ شكله الاكثريه شاطرين عرفوا انه ثاني وحده. the most penetrating particle size هي 0.3 مايكرون. وهالشيء منه بالصدفه لانه الفلتر بيشتغل بهالطريقه. هيدا التشارت اللي على اليمين بفرجينا على الفلاتر كل سايز اوف بارتيكلز قد ايه البرسنتج اللي بيقطع منه. ليش ال 0.3 بيقطع اكثر من غيره؟ لانه الفلتر منه مصفيه، بيشتغل في عنده الكتروستاتيك اكشن وعنده امباكشن وعنده كذا مود اوف اكشن. ذاتس واي البارتيكلز الكبار بيعلقوا بالفلتر ميكانيكلي اذا بدكم، والبارتيكلز اللي كثير صغار كمان بيعلقوا بس بغير اكشن الكتروستاتيك ولا اللي مكتوبين قدامنا كلهم سوا. اللي بالنص اللي هي 0.3 اللي هي ما بتعلق بالالكتروستاتيك ومنا كبيره كفايه لحتى يمسكها الفلتر بتقطع. الكلاسيفيكيشن تبع الهيبا فلتر معتمده على هالسايز اوف بارتيكلز. الموضوع مختلف عن الميرف فلترز لانه الميرف اللي بيعتمدوه كثير بامريكا بيحدد الافشنسي ات ا سيرتن بارتيكل سايز. الهيبا فينا نعتبر نفس الشيء بس كلهم بيعتمدوا على ال 0.3 مايكرونز. من بعد ما فهمنا انه الفلتريشن شو بتعمل رح نبلش نشوف نحن ك اتش في اي سي شو معقول نعمل لحتى نسيطر على الكونتامينيشن. في كذا اكشن معقول نعملها. اول وحده هي الفلتريشن وثاني وحده هي الستيريلايزيشن. فلتريشن حكينا عنها، ستيريلايزيشن ما كثير حكينا عنها هون لانه موضوع شوي شائك. يو في قديش فعاله وقد مش فعاله رح نبعد عنها شوي. بيجي دورنا نحن كميكانيكال انجينيرز نحكي عن الديفرنشال بريشر. نحن ليتس سي عندنا غرفه عمليات فيها مريض سرطان، تنقول هذا المريض بحاجه يكون هو محمي من الامراض اللي برا. فالغرفه لازم تكون اندر بوزيتيف بريشر. لما نقول اندر بوزيتيف بريشر يعني مثلا بلس 2.5 باسكال بالنسبه لاشري. بالنسبه لفرنسا بيحكوا عن بلس 15 باسكال. الستاندردز كمان مختلفين. بعالم صناعه الادويه بالفارماسيوتيكال بيحكوا عن مينيموم 5 باسكالز ل 15 باسكالز، كمان الموضوع اكثر من 2.5. وكمان في شيء كثير مهم اللي هو البريشر كاسكيد. مثلا بهيدي الصوره اللي فوق اللي شايفينها بنمرق من يعني بس نبلش تنقول عم نصنع ادويه اللي هن الانجكتبلز اللي هن اخطر انواع الادويه لانه فايتين على الدم دايركتلي، بحاجه يكونوا بغرفه او بسبيس كونتيند سبيس ايزو 5. فما فينا نحن دغري نطلع من غرفه عاديه لايزو 5، مضطرين نمرق بليفلز ومن كل ليفل لليفل بنغير تيابنا. بعالم الفارما بنلبس قصص زياده لحتى نخفف بارتيكل جنريشن او لحتى نحصر هالبارتيكلز جوا ما يطلعوا لبرا. في ليفلز من الايزو 8 لل 7 لل 6 عاده بيكون في بيناتهم كمان ايرلوك لحتى نحافظ على هال ديفرنشال بريشر. اوقات بيكون عندنا المشكله بالعكس، بيكون عندنا مريض هو كوفيد مثلا لازم تكون نيجاتيف لانه ما بدنا هو يعدي الناس الثانيين، الموضوع بيصير بالعكس. نحن ك اتش فاك ثاني مود اوف او ثاني برنسبل نستعمله لحتى نحصر الكونتامينيشن هو الديفرنشال بريشر. موضوع ثاني كمان اللي هو الدايلوشن يلي بعالم الميكانيكال انجينيرنج الاتش فاك انجينيرز بيعتمدوا كثير على شيء اسمه اير تشينج ريت، يلي هي عمليا نحن عم نعمل دايلوشن لهيدي البارتيكلز. ليتس سي في عندنا شخص موجود جوا عم بيتنفس كوفيد عم بيطلع 1000 بارتيكل بير مينيت، بدنا نشيله لهالبارتيكلز لازم نعمل دايلوشن بشكل مستمر ب اير تشينج ريت معينه. مثلا باشري بيقولوا تنقول بالايزوليشن روم طالما عم نحكي عن كوفيد لازم تكون 12 اير تشينجز بير اور. بغرفه العمليات 20 وبكل غرفه في عندها الريكوايرمنت تبعها. كمان في عندنا شيء ثاني اللي هو الوان واي باس، يعني مثلا بغرف العمليات الاورثوبيدكس كثير معتمد انه تكون وان واي باس، يعني في عندنا لامينر فلو، بنسميه لامينر فلو، هو يونت دايركشنال فلو، كله بيكون في فلاتر، والهواء اللي عم ينزل كله قاطع 100% بالفلاتر وبيقطع وان تايم. سو ما في حتى وقت للدايلوشن، دغري عم تروح البارتكلز عم تطلع معهم. كمان بموضوع الاير فلو حتى بالسنجل باس في كذا وجهه نظر بموضوع سرعه الاير فلو. اشري بيقول اندر 0.2 متر بير سكند، الالمان بيقولوا 0.25، جي ام بي بعالم فارما بيقول 0.36 to 0.54 متر بير سكند. مش عم نجرب هون نحن نوصل لاجوبه، بس عم نجرب نطرح الموضوع حتى نكون عندنا فكره شوي عن كل الستاندردز، لانه الموضوع في كثير ستاندردز من كذا عالم ومن كذا اندستري. وكمان عندنا ضمن هون شوي بس عم نشرح شو يعني الاير تشينج ريت. سو كلنا نحن بنعرف شو يعني 10 اير تشينجز بير اور، بنسمعها كثير، بس براكتيكلي شو معناتها؟ ليتس سي اذا بنشوف بالفيرتيكال اكسس اخذنا تنقول 12 اير تشينجز يلي هي الايزوليشن روم. هالشيء شو معناته؟ مش معناته نحن غيرنا الهواء 12 مره بالساعه، نحن كبينا 12 فوليوم بالساعه، بس هالشيء ما غير كل الهواء 12 مره، انما عمل دايلوشن. وهالشيء بيعني انه خلال فتره، مثل ما بتشوفوا على الدايجرام، خلال فتره 10 دقائق شلنا 90% من هالكونتامينيشن، مش انه نحن شلنا 12 مره نظفنا على الاخر. سو كل ما عليت الريسك اوف انفكشن كل ما بنعلي الاير تشينج ريت. ذاتس واي بالايزوليشن روم هو بيكون 12، بال مثلا نورمال بيشنت روم فيها تكون 4 to 6، وبال اوبريشنز ثياتر لازم تكون مينيموم 20. سو حتى بالاو ار ما في شيء بيقول انه لازم تكون لامينر فلو او كومبليت فلترنج سيلينج، انما مطلوب على القليل 20 اير تشينج بير اور. كمان ضمن القصص اللي بنعمل لها كنترول نحن بالاي جي اي سي هي الحراره والرطوبه، تمبرتشر اند ار اتش، لانه هيدي هينه كلنا بنعرف انه البكتيريا بتتكاثر على حراره معينه وعلى رطوبه معينه. هذا التشارت جينيريك لانه كمان كل بكتيريا كل سبيشيز عندها رينج اوف تي ار اتش بتعيش فيهم بتتكاثر فيهم. سو نحن كمان هدفنا نحافظ على التي والار اتش. اهم شيء نعرفه انه بعالم الكلين رومز، مستشفيات فارما وكل هالقصص، نحن ما عم نحكي عن حدا سقع وبده يلبس كنزه او حدا شوب وبده يشلح اللي لابسه. في فيري هاي ريسك اوف كونتامينيشن ممكن يؤدي بالحاله الهيلث كير فيها تكون وفاه، بحاله الفارما فيها تكون كوست كثير عالي على باتش معينه راحت على الزباله. بحاله الاندستري مثلا نحن بنشتغل بدبي مع السبيس اندستري، اذا الساتلايت كونتامينيتد طلع لفوق واللينس في عليها غبره مشكله كبيره للكاميرا، راحت كلها على الكب. عم نحكي عن ما بعرف كم مليون دولار. سو الريسك از فيري هاي. سو ما بنتحمل نحن يكون في عندنا كونتامينيشن حتى لو بسيطه، لانه بتكلفنا كثير غالي. كل الفكره تنوصل على شيء اسمه كواليفيكيشنز. سو نحن جينا عملنا ديزاين، انا بيسكلي ميكانيكال انجينير عامل اتش فاك ديزاين، وكنا نسلم هالمشروع وعلى الدنيا السلام، وننطر بعدين الشباب المينتننس هن بيعملوا شغلهم. مع الوقت عم بيصير في ستريس كثير قوي او فوكس كثير قوي على موضوع الكواليفيكيشنز، يلي معناتها انه نعمل نحن تيست لهالغرفه العمليات من بعد ما يكون كل شيء ركب. اكزامبل ليش بنعمل هذا الشيء؟ لانه ممكن مثلا يجي الميكانيكال انجينير يركب الاتش فاك ويظهر يجي من بعده اللي عم يركب البانلز او اللايتنج او السيرجنز سكرين وينزع شيء ثاني. سو غير التستنج اند بالانسنج في شيء اسمه كواليفيكيشن، واللي هو انه كل السيستمز صاروا راكبين. اتس تايم تو تيست اول اوف ذا سيستمز مع بعضهم، تنقول للسيرجن انه يلا فيك تفوت تعمل اوبريشن، او للمانيفاكتشرر انه فيك تبلش تطلع ادويه من هيدي الغرفه. سو برايكم غير التستنج اند بالانسنج هالكواليفيكيشن اي متى لازم تنعمل؟ دغري من بعد الكونستراكشن، مره كل 6 اشهر، مره اذا عملنا موديفيكيشن، ولا كل الاجوبه؟ مين بيقول بس اول وحده؟ استاذ يوسف انت بتعرفهم all of the above.
عم نحكي حسب الكام فايل لازم تبلش بالديزاين، تعمل ديزاين كواليفيكيشن،
Yes.
تعمل انستليشن كواليفيكيشن، وهي بتعمل فاليديشن
100% اكزاكتلي هن باي ديفينيشن اكزاكتلي هن هودي الفور ستيجز دي كيو ديزاين كواليفيكيشن اي كيو اند بي كيو اللي هن انستوليشن اند بيرفورمانس وال اي كيو او كيو دي كيو بي كيو بيرفورمانس كواليفيكيشنز. سو كل سنه حسب السيستم كمان نرجع لنفس الحديث لانه دائما في كذا ستاندرد على القليله مره كل 6 اشهر في سيستمز لازم نعمل لهم كواليفيكيشنز. مثلا البايو سيفتي كابينت يلي بالمستشفيات بحضروا فيه الادويه للمرضى اللي بيطلعوا لهم الانجكشن، هذا السيستم بحسب الستاندرد اللي هو يو اس بي لازم ينعمل له كواليفيكيشن كل 6 اشهر. بعالم الفارما تقريبا معظم الاوقات بتكون كل سنه. بعالم الهيلث كير حسب اي نورمز، وهون الجاب تبعنا هون بلبنان لانه ما بنعرف اي نورم، حسب كل مستشفى معتمده نورمز معينين. بس ان اول كيسز لازم ينعمل هالكواليفيكيشنز باول مره على التسليم او حتى نبلش مثل ما قلت على الديزاين. بس من الاوبريشنز وبتطالع لازم نعمل بيريوديكلي كل 6 اشهر تنقول او كل سنه. فاذا جواب all of the above تربح معنا. وهودي الستيجز اوف كواليفيكيشنز اللي كنا عم نحكي عنهم دي كيو اي كيو او كيو اند بي كيو. اوكي كمان الترم شوي ضيق لانه كمان بعالم الفارما خاصه في شيء اسمه داتا انتجريتي اللي هي صنعنا ادويه وطلعت الباتش ونزلت على السوق، ما فينا خلص ننسى الموضوع، لازم يكون عندنا ريكوردز انه هيدي الباتش شو كان عليها ريسك او صار في مشاكل او ما صار في مشاكل. حتى بالترمينولوجي وبالميثودولوجي كيف بنكتب كواليفيكيشن ريبورت مختلف عن كيف بنعمل تيستينج اند بالانسنج ريبورت، تنحافظ على كل هالمعلومات تضلها بين ايدينا وتضلها موجوده. مثلا اخر شيء ديفيشنز، يعني انا اذا عملت تيست تنقول اير تشينج ريت وطلع معي انه هذا منه كومبلاينت، طلع نون كومبلاينت، ما فيني بس صلحه وكفي حياتي، لا لازم اقول طلع نون كومبلاينت وشوف الامباكت تبعه على الباتشز وعلى المرضى اللي مرقوا قبل. هذا مبدا الاساسي تبع الكواليفيكيشنز او الفرق الاساسي بينه وبين النورمال اتش فاك وركس. كل اللي عم نحكيه هو تمام وبجنن، بس كمان مش بس هيدا راينا او شو عبالنا نعمل، في ريجوليشنز. والريجوليشنز كثير واضحين بفرنسا مثلا بالنور فرانسيز، ما في مزح. بالعالم تصدير الادويه تنقول في مصنع بلبنان عم بيصدر على سويسرا كمان ما في مزح. اذا بس عم بيبيع بلبنان ان شاء الله السنه الجايه ببطل في مزح. مستشفيات كمان نفس الشيء. ما عندهم نورم. سوري حضرتك عم تحكي؟ ايه ما في نورم، وكثير اكشلي كثير بيعتمدوا على اشري. هلا بعد شوي رح نمرق على موضوع اشري. اشري از ا ديزاينرز بوينت اوف فيو، ما كثير اوبريشنز وما كثير نورمز وما كثير بيحكي عن شو بصير بعدين، بيقول هيك لازم يصير، بس حتى ما بيطلب منا نتاكد انه جبنا التارجت. بيقول اعملوا ديزاين هيك، بس ما بيقول انه فحصوا تاكدتوا انه جبتوا الديزاين. ليست الريجوليشنز اذا بدكم فينا نقطع عنها بسرعه، فارما، هيلث كير، ايزو، والاسواق حكينا عنهم كلهم سوا. وهيدي من الايزو، التيبل يلي على اليمين هيدي من الايزو بتحكي عن الفريكونسي اوف كواليفيكيشنز قد ايه لازم تكون حسب السيستم وحسب كمان الاندستري. رح ارجع اسلم السكرين لباتريس تيحكي لنا شوي عن التستات، شو يعني كواليفيكيشنز، ونفوت بكم تست. ما رح نلحق نعملهم كلهم سوا، بس رح نعمل الاساسيات اللي هن بكل كواليفيكيشن في هذا النوع من التستات، وكل تست شو قصته. شو الاسم؟ Thank you.
Sorry for you. I'm coming back. Okay, so we are just to speak a little bit about what we are testing in the different qualifications, different tests we are doing. So the HEPA filter integrity testing, very important. How does it happen? And very quick, very easy. We are generating, let's say, a gas, a fluid before the filter, okay? Checking the concentration of this gas before the filter and scanning at the outlet of the filter to check the percentage of this gas which is coming, okay? Very important because Some people think that it is not useful to do it because they have a certificate from the filtration manufacturer saying, okay, this is 95.9, it is good enough. But of course, this is the certification of your filter, of your fiber. But it is not the let's say, integrity when your filter is installed. And we have many issues when we check that because the filter is not well installed. Okay? And if there is a small bypass, it's like your filter is not an HEPA filter. Okay? If it's not compressed enough. So it is why the integrity test is compulsory. Okay? In healthcare, we are only making this test when we are changing the filter. For pharmaceutical industry, most of the time it is asked every year. Every qualification, we are testing the filter. Okay? On the filter, I will say HEPA filter, it has to be changed if the, let's say, the chain of filtration of your inside your air handling unit on your HVAC system is, let's say, well designed. You change a filter between 5 to 7 years. Okay? Okay, so then we are going to use this kind of counter, particle counter. And depending the size of your room, we're going to have different points. We're going to sample the air, okay, and to check the amount of particles by size there is in the volume of your room. Of course, we are also doing the microbial sampling, okay. Of course, the air, but also the surface. Same thing, depending on the surface of your room, you have different points to sample. Of course, we can also do the airflow velocity and to check the laminarity. Okay, so like Ryan said, depending on, let's say, the certification, you have different speed. But in fact, okay, we have just to check the speed, first the speed, and then to check that the flow is very laminar. Okay, 2 points to be checked. Differential pressure, very often in the time when it is not checked, there is some issue at this point, okay? And when you have a problem of pressure, if you don't have any longer the pressure between two rooms, it's like the door is open. So it's very important to check out this and to even make differential pressure on the door to check out. But anyway, the pressure, it is air barrier limit. So, okay, it's important to check it. And I heard in the presentation before, one presentation before, it can be negative, of course, in case of contamination. Also, what is being checked mainly in industry, it is the thermal mapping, especially for the storing of the medicine. So it is important to check out inside the store that your temperature is completely, let's say, homogeneous all over your room. Okay? Okay. Ben, that's it. Before we have, let's say, before the question, we have the... il y a des questions.
So إذا حدا عنده أي أسئلة, please feel free to ask your questions على كل اللي حكيناه. Meanwhile, please نطلب من فؤاد, Mr. فؤاد and Mr. سامي يتفضلوا please لعنا. Yes, فينا عنا ميكرو ولا كيف بيسأل؟ فيك تعلي صوتك هلا. عم نسمعك.
Thank you for your presentation. So regarding the earlier statistic about how many particles per millions are generated from a person, is that for regular patients or the hospital staff?
This is the slide اللي حطيناها, that slide that we put as actually a generic slide. It's not very, very scientific to say, because you have different, like if you are wearing the proper gowning or if you're not wearing the proper gowning, or if you are wearing even the gowning, you have different classes of gowning. So the main idea is to say that even if you are sitting, you are generating a lot of particles. And the more we put gowning, for example, to reach the ISO 5 rooms, I have been to ISO 5 rooms, I have to dress for the ISO 7, and then enter to the airlock, and then dress again for ISO 6, and then put another layer, and then reach the ISO 5. So the answer is not really very, very clear for a specific situation. It's to say that if I just enter like this into an OR, I have a lot of particles. For instance, the operating theater where the surgeons enter without really wearing the clean room garments is not a very clean environment. That's why we need a lot of air changes, because the medical staff are, first of all, they are too many, and second, they are not wearing the clean room garments because it will be very, it's not comfortable. They cannot work wearing these garments. That's why we need a lot of air changes in those rooms. Yes.
HEPA filters, but they don't have enough room. The ceiling is not high enough. Someone told me that we can put the installation outside the building. Is that feasible?
There are many solutions for this. Now, so we at IGIENAIR, we have like many sister companies, one of which is called ATA Medical. And they sell packaged HEPA filtration units. So it's like the standalone air conditioning unit that you install inside the room, and it has HEPA filters inside, qualifiable, tested, and everything else. And depending on the room size, you can put it in the room. You can also add outside and put the proper ducting. There are always solutions depending on the site, because sites are not all the same. But you can always find a solution.
But it will always depend the distance between the outside and the inside.
Exactly, because the pressure will change.
I know it's not a case of pressure, it is a case of between the filtration and, let's say, your area which is risky. It has to be, let's say, the filtration has to be the closest as possible. So I don't know what is the distance. It has to be checked out.
Thank you. Any more questions before we move to... Yes, go ahead, please. Le HEPA filter, so la question c'est combien, how many times, or how, at what, with what conditions we have to change the HEPA filters?
Yes, so I would say the standard filtration in the air unit, okay, till, let's say, the filtration inside the air only unit, I will say it is easy to check it out with a manometer. Okay, you check it, you have your clean filter, you have your dirty filter, you have your pressure drop given by the manufacturer, and you change it. Okay? HEPA filter, you could do the same. You could do, of course, put a manometer on to check when your HEPA filter is dirty. But most of the time, let's say it is changed in a term of period, because with the time, your HEPA filter will say can crack, and if it is cracking and you don't see it at this time, you can have terrible consequences. So, generally speaking, people are changing that, I would say, every 5 years. But there is nothing, let's say, written. But it is also depending, of course, of the chain of filtration you have before your HEPA filter. Okay? This is very important.
Yes.
But you have to test it every year.
What? No. In fact, the pharmaceutical factory, most of them ask in their own protocol to check what we check the integrity filter, to check it every year. But some others will decide to check it with a counter. I mean, if you have no issue with particle inside your room, it means your filtration is okay. Okay? And some are thinking also, when you are putting emery, every year, you're going to contaminate a little bit your filter. Because the emery gas that you are injecting, is also a little bit dirty. It's a little bit oil, okay? So it is why a HEPA filter has to be checked when, integrity test has to be checked when you install it. And then if you don't have issue with your counting or microbiological test, you don't need to change. And after 5 years, for safety, you change it.
تفضل.
أنا عندي مشكلة بالفورمول ستيريلايزيشن.
بال؟
فورمول ستيريلايزيشن.
Yes.
مشكلتي إنه السيستم عندي الوفرات والإكزوست. الإكزوست هذا من بعد 10 ساعات 12 ساعة ريحة الفورمول عم تطلع. صم نصحوني إنه كبر الإكزوست. يا ترى بكفي ولا لازم آخذ بروسيجر؟
في مبدا هلا منيح انك سالت هذا السؤال لانه في شيء لازم نعرفه انه الهيبا فلترز they don't filter gases. الفورمول اللي عم نحكي عنه هو غاز. اي يس يس يس. هلا هيك صعب يعطيك جواب ديزاين يعني اتس ديزاين كويستشن بس يس اكسترا اير تشينج ريت will make it faster for sure مثل ما شفنا بالتيبل اللي قبل حسب قد ايه الريت. كمان يمكن يكون في مشكله بالمانيبيوليشن كيف عم يشتغلوا الناس عم يفتحوها لمده طويله للكونتينرز او يعني مثلا صار عندنا كيس انه حدا they mismanipulated one chemical ووقعوه بالارض فاضطرينا نحن نجي نعمل decontamination للاوضه واكتشفنا بعدين انه في هالمس مانيبيوليشن عم تصير دائما سو ممكن يكون هذا السبب ممكن يكون بدنا اكسترا فنتيليشن وممكن يكون بدك localized exhaust system يعني exhaust laminar سوري مثل بايو سيفتي كابينت يعني او exhaust كابينت او exhaust arm بيلزموا الاوبريتورز انه لما يكونوا عم بيعملوا هالمانيبيوليشن لهالكيميكال ما يكونوا فاتحينه على الاوضه كلها سوا يكون محصور بكابينت معين مع اكزوست دايركتلي لبرا وهودي البايو سيفتي كابينتس كمان نحن بنعمل لهم كواليفيكيشن او لازم نعمل لهم كواليفيكيشن سو ممكن يكون هذا احسن حل عندكم لانه تغير كل الفنتيليشن شغله يس هن H12 13 14 مينلي بعدين بصير أولبا طالما عم نحكي نحن ايزو يعني رح ارجع بس على الكلاسيفيكيشن تبع الغرف اللي هن هونيك على هذاك الطرف كل ما نحن عم نحكي ايزو 5 6 7 8 most of the applications they use H12 13 14 بس نطلع من الايزو 4 وطلوع بصيروا يستعملوا أولبا في فرق بس كمان مرتبطه بالاير فلو مرتبطه بس عاده in practice فرق السعر does not justify انك تاخذ H12 او كذا العالم كلها بيركبوا H14 لانه فرق السعر ما does not justify كل هالوجعه الراس بس انه فيك انت تقول بدك H13 اوكي I think we have a short on time so yes. Please go ahead
so thank you Rayan so I have few questions for first and foremost for Sami yes so healthcare references and standard like HTM IGCI and the French norm NFS 90 351 drive regular HVAC verification and traceability while ASHRAE remains largely performance by design. In a country like Lebanon, how should hospitals interpret ASHRAE requirements and why should they implement periodic HVAC qualification to remain compliant and maintain patient safety?
Sorry, we did not introduce you, so can you please introduce
I'm Sami Aboud, BMS engineer at Khater Engineering. First of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on this panel. I'd like to think about it in Lebanon with a hybrid mindset. So we take ASHRAE as the baseline. It provides the engineering design targets for our HVAC systems. But hospitals should verify these targets are being met periodically. Because even in the most successful situations, we still have some issues. Let's consider even the smallest issues like sensor drift, or some sensors get poorly relocated due to renovation, and so on. All of these issues can cause your system to deviate. And this is where periodic HVAC verification slots in. It transforms this design intent that we had, this design idea that we have, into proof over time with traceable records, aligning with the mindset of standards such as HTM and GCI. So to wrap it up all together, in HVAC, in healthcare HVAC, it's not enough to say that the system was designed properly. We need to make sure periodically that the performance is there, that the environment is being protective for our patients. Thank you.
Second question, Fahad, may you introduce yourself, please?
Fuad Hanna, I'm the head of engineering of Algorithm Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Company. I'm honored to be here in this panel.
Okay, thank you, Fahad. So the question is, in the same context, European regulatory often expect deep historical qualification data, whereas Middle Eastern projects may focus on initial compliance. How does this affect engineering teams when facing inspections, audits, or tech transfers?
Yes, mainly in the pharmaceutical factor, we have GMP and EU GMP. They clearly define the qualification frequency. So if you are manufacturing in a class A or B room, you have to requalify your system every around not more than 6 months. If you are operating under C and D classification area, you can extend this testing period of up to 12 months. And all this testing will include the particle air changes, the temperature, relative humidity, and the pressure. And they expect from the pharmaceutical industry to do a yearly assessment for all the test results that they have. Actually, that's what they audit you for.
Okay, clear. So Sami, your next question is, we often rely heavily on BMS trends and sensor feedback to judge HVAC performance. What are the limitations of this approach, and how can we bridge the gap between control logic and real-world performance?
Okay, so trends are a story on their own. We depend on them a lot in healthcare HVAC systems, and we use them a lot. But the thing with trends is that they can tell you a convincing story that's still awfully wrong. From sensor drifting to getting poorly relocated due to renovation, or facing practical issues like clogged pressure tubing or bad reference point. All of these can make your trend give you a good picture, a complying picture, while the room is not. And even if the sensor is accurate, let's say we're getting an accurate reading, we'll never cover the whole space. We'll always have some dead zones inside the room, some poor locations that we can't have a good trending about. And this is the gap that we're talking about. This is the gap that we have to fill. And to fill it, we have to assume a layered approach. So the BMS, keep the BMS as the continuous watchdog for your system, for the operation and the daily reporting with the trends. But we have to support it with verification, periodic verification and qualification, periodic tab checks, room pressure mapping, very important, temperature mapping, airflow direction tests, and all of these. So to put it into perspective, trends support control and support operation, but it's the verification and qualification that confirms the patient's safety and the performance that we are aiming for.
Okay, thank you. So Fuad, here is a situational question. Suppose you have a state-of-the-art brand new manufacturing plant and you are working with best engineering practices. And as an engineering manager, how hard it's to shift GMP qualifications from being seen as compliance burden to a strategic risk management tool?
Okay. Many organizations, especially here in Lebanon, they lack the matrix that connect qualification to business. Okay, for example, for the accounting team, it's additional cost. It's additional qualification is additional cost. You're paying more money. For the production people, you are stopping me. I cannot produce when you are qualifying. But indeed, qualification is very important for the pharmaceutical sector or for the hospitals. For the pharmaceutical factor, rejects. So if you have a product and you have a reject, it will have a very bad impact on the reputation, and it will have a very high financial impact. But this day we have concluded, or it's important to know that qualification it makes your system more how to say it? Yeah. So you will be operating in a correct condition. So, but one of the most important things that I want to say for everybody that is designing a new system, especially for pharmaceutical, is to involve the expert, like here IGIENAIR, and the user requirement when you are defining the user requirement. Because at the end of the day, the management care about money. And over-designing will lead to over-cost and to lead to over-qualification. So involving a third party in the initial design and the user requirement preparation, it's a very important issue, and it will lead to saving money in the future and have more robust system.
Okay, thank you, Fahad. I have a lot of questions, but I need to jump to the last question because we need to wrap up the session. The question, it is yours, Patrice. So I know you have connections. Can you give us a hint to the changes in the new NFS and their importance, please?
Yes, so it is true that this year, normally, we are going to change our regulation for hospital. So there are different things which are going to be changed. I will tell you a few things which for me it is important, because in fact the change, why there is this change, because during the period which has been 10 years, of course there is some deviation on problematic on qualification or maintenance, and obviously they change the regulation. Okay. So 2 points which are going to be put in the new regulation. The first one is the cleanliness of the ventilation network. Okay? So in fact you have your air handling unit, production of air, okay, take the air from the outside and bringing air inside your, let's say, a class, ISO class. Okay? And everybody take care about the cleanliness of the room, okay, with a counter of particles. Okay, you put some filtration, but in fact, the air inside your duct, nobody check it. And there is a norm which is existing, it is the norm EN 15780, which give already the cleanliness level you have to have inside your duct network, depending if you are in the supply, return, extract, okay? There is a concentration, it is a concentration of dust, let's say you can have, okay? So this now, this norm is existing, but this will be now, will be put in the norm for hospital. The second thing which is coming also, which will not be compulsory yet, but in fact it is now there is some, you have some counter like this, which is very costly, okay? And it is the one we are using when we do qualification. And now on the market is arriving some particle counter like this, okay, which is far less expensive. and can give, let's say, monitoring of your room. Okay? So now you can install you can monitor, like you're monitoring air or humidity, you can monitor the particles. Okay? And this type of particles is not very expensive and will have different utilities. The first one, when you are, let's say, making revamping. Okay? Imagine you have a full hospital or a full pharmaceutical factory and you want to make some change only in one part, but all the rest remain in activity. The thing which is important, you have to check out that your activity is not contaminated by your work that you are doing. Okay? So if you install this kind of thing, you will check it out because it's monitoring every second. It takes one measurement. Okay? This is one thing it can do. The second thing, of course, you put that in an operating theater and the biomedical, the technical engineers, the nurses can have already directly the information of the level of contamination you have. Okay? You don't have to wait the qualification every year to check out what is, let's say, your possible problematic in your room. You can check it directly with some apps. Okay? And the last thing, and I'm coming to you when you are speaking when you were speaking about designing and improving the performance. What is very important, we don't have to, of course, when we are designing a pharmaceutical factory, designer have the habit to put some, let's say, margin, okay, to be safe. Okay, 20% more of airflow, 50. Okay, and with, of course, the energy consumption, which is very, very important, it is important that the designer would say, of course, make a nice project, but don't take too much margin in order that the full pharmaceutical factory is going to consume a lot of energy. And one way to check out that you have the right airflow inside your room is to monitor with this the cleanliness of your air. Okay? Because you will be able to decrease a little bit your concentration of airflow, just respecting what is given in the regulation, and in the meantime, checking that your, let's say, particles are okay. And many now pharmacy in France and Europe are using this kind of small counter particles in order to adjust the right airflow inside the premises. And if you want some information about this and about the cleanness of the duct, don't hesitate to come to our stand and we will be with pleasure with RAYAN to explain you this during these 3 days.
Thank you very much كلكم جميعا. إن شاء الله نكون قدمنا شيء جديد. Thank you Patrice, thank you محمد، فؤاد وسامي. رح نخلص السيشن بس نحن باقيين هون اذا حدا حابب عنده اي ديسكشن بحب يعملها نحن موجودين هون او بنكون تحت على الستاند تبعنا بالجراوند فلور حد الستاند نمبر 22. اوكي ثانك يو فيري ماتش. رح ناخذ صوره وبننزل.